Okay, let me show you how I'm going to make a simple card paper, this thicker card paper template. If you had a thin piece of plastic or something, you can make it out of whatever you want. It's not really going to be a wet process, as we're just going to be tracing our shapes onto different slabbed out rocks. Like these I've already started now. I was of course using coins and round objects. Those are some of the most common that you'll find to trace, but I wanted different shapes and I didn't want to spend all day drafting the shape to be exact. So we're going to use the old butterfly effect, which you learned finger painting in elementary, where as a kid, if you don't know what finger painting is, it's never too late, you know. But anyhow, the concept, we can do this with paints too. I'm using a surface other than the desk that my dad built me. We're going to use just a simple piece of scrap paper here, and we start by setting up the tripod. We're going to start by just folding this in half. And then we're going to draw our shapes on here. Now I have to turn it like this so that I can do that. I've already done a lot of different shapes, but as an example, let's say I wanted to go a little bit fancier. Than I've done a lot of the basics, so this allows us to maybe do some more well, that's going to actually look kind of like a butterfly. Really don't know how these look until you cut them open, but you can see the freestyle. The concept is we're just doing a freestyle shape here, and we'll cut that out with razor blade, and when we open it up, then we'll have a perfectly balanced image of whatever we do. So I'm thinking maybe an elongated diamond here, but maybe I'm going to curve the edge just a little bit, and then shorter top. Each one of these variations increases the different choices that you have to choose from, of course, but now maybe flow out here. See, we're going round, and I feel kind of like having a couple that might do that. I don't know how possible that's going to be. When you choose to make something like that, remember you're going to have to be either cutting it straight or literally using a Dremel or something, which isn't that hard. And on a lot of these, that's how you start, is just like you would any paper project. You end up just using the saw to roughly cut it out, and then you go back and try and nibble out as much as you can. At least that's how I'm doing it. And then I'm going to use all the space on this. So, see, what haven't we done? Haven't done a lot of plain triangles. So, what if we just went with slightly bent? I realize that's not a triangle, but concept. If you want, you could get in here with rulers and make this perfect. I'm just showing you the concept, and this is actually just a fun thing that you could sit here and do, and you know, aside from the actual carving. And each one of these is going to be an individual design that you created. So, and I'm sure you can buy, you know, templates. If you're going to buy standardized settings, which there are, you're going to want to get some of the templates for cabochons and round things that have specific sizes, so then you can have an easier time ordering specific sizes for clasps and settings and stuff. A lot of those come pre-made. You can get rings that are all set up and everything else. So. Okay, so we've got another little plethora of design. Call that the butterfly. Maybe a super long, skinny looking heart here. And then maybe as true of a little triangle as we can get, or a whatever that's actually called. Okay, so then we're just coming along. Fresh blade, of course. And you could trace around that, but tracing the innie is always easier than tracing the outie. The idea though is that then when you open up your shape, it's perfectly balanced. So you didn't have to do all that measuring and stuff. So then you could trace that onto a stone, follow your lines, that's what you got. So we're going to do that with all of these. When you're cutting with the razor knife, if you have it at a real steep angle, it will tend to catch the paper more and tear the paper more. If you, on any material in fact. So if you turn it at more of an angle to where you're slicing along it instead of digging along it, it works like less of a little plow through the thing and more of the slicer that you want. So that's definitely one of the tips. And of course, try and cut away from yourself. Never cut towards your neck or towards your inner legs. So these are all different shapes that then you can trace onto your little flat slabs and cut out and use for your jewelry pieces. And we're going to add that onto here. Don't worry about the little messes inside because we're going to cut out just the outer lines. And we'll use the same razor knife, but for now I'm just filling it in, so we're just coming along to spots like this. Doesn't really matter if it's square to the others, just leave enough room in between to where it doesn't rip when you're moving around with it, you know, and use a thick enough card paper to where this will last for you a little while. Or if you have something smarter, then use that. So I'm just kind of trying to fit as many of these in here as I can. Not super worried about space. And you could use tape so it doesn't move around on you. I've done a lot of tracing over the years, so I will just mess up in front of you and live with it. Remember to try and come straight down with your whatever you're using to mark it. It's okay if you run inside a bit, just make sure it's on there. And then you're going to carefully cut out each of these shapes. But look how many different individual sizes and shapes of stuff you can develop for yourself. All individual to your own tastes. And then you have yet another tool that you've made for yourself. So there you go. I mean, there's a run with that. Have fun. Hope it helps. So there, about an hour later, but this will save me time in the long run because I can mass produce just like anything else. Set up your own assembly lines, you know, figure out what can save you time, what steps you don't have to reproduce, everything to make it easier on yourself. And then to include on that, since these came out so clean, well, I mean, it's a good look at what the shapes are going to be. So that's kind of fun. You can get the size and an idea of what's going on there. There's my hand, so all different sizes and shapes of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and slip those into this bag, and then next time when this gets worn out or anything happens to it, because it's just a piece of thick paper, then I won't have to redo all the other steps. So I'll just slide this away with my other rock stuff and we'll have that. Remember that you could also just get card paper, go onto your computer and use all of its shapes, you know, from any of the clip arts or anything, and sit there and set those up and make yourself several sheets of these and sit there and cut them out too, whatever process you use. But the idea is that you come out with this little trace pad that you can then use and save yourself some time in processing. 3 days of cutting later, and this is what I got out of it. So this is, I still have about double this still in my inventory of uncut before I have to start collecting more, but literally took half of my mahogany, that's the black and brown, and then some of these little round nodes that I have, about half of my collection of what I've gathered up to cut someday. So someday came, and this is actually a lot of work if you've sat at a saw, and I don't have an automatic push-through saw, I'm using a tile saw, and so there's a lot of fractures, a lot of breaks, a lot of failures. I also don't have a fence system set up, you know, a guard that I can slide the rocks along that works really well for all of this. So literally doing these by hand and pushing them through and sitting there and taking the time, but I've afforded myself this much material now, so I feel pretty rich. And did the rocks the service of, like I say, took, you know, the last 5 or 6 years of picking up quality material. I'm in a land of multiple obsidian sources, lots of obsidian here in California. You know, maybe some of the largest supplies in the planet. So definitely have a lot of volcanic glass here on the west coast, and so I've lived with it my whole life is the point, and just started kind of picking it up more often with the idea that I was going to cut it into something. I never really looked at it as an ornamental stone. For some reason I kind of skipped it over, but its beauty has captivated me now, all of its different forms, and yeah, so blah blah blah, I went through my collection and cut half of it to turn real. It just feels good to turn real raw resources into stuff that you know you're going to make. I mean, right after this, we take our template. This is just a bunch of shapes that I've cut out, and lay this over all the different pieces and choose what we're going to cut out of each one. Trace that on there. I like using on this type of material, obviously the opposite, so it'd be a white waxy crayon. That'll work pretty good. Or sometimes I use an indelible marker if I'm working with light material. So those are my two main markers, and I'm going to go through here, turn a little music on for you, and show you why I'm so excited about this. Because until you cut something open, you don't know how many cracks it has running through it, you don't know how pretty it's going to look. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with this, and this will start the process. I'm going to show you all these, and then spend the evening tracing all the different shapes on that, and that is just very fun to me. That seems very fun. Some of them I'm planning on putting in a tumbler in mass. Some of these I've already started blanking out. So this is a slab out of the same round rock. It was like a round, long, skinny one. You see I already have a circle drawn on there. And I took a couple of these, nipped them down. This one I sanded just a little bit to see how it would go, which can be hard to do. And so when I got down to the little ends and butts, that's what I did. You can see that's like the round end of the onion I could barely hang on to anymore. Hey! So I nipped it on the back to kind of let light through, beveled the edge of the front. This one here was kind of an oval, long skinny one. That's what I ended up doing with it, is I cut it in half, which lost some material to the blade, and then I nipped off the backs. And it's a gray striped material when it comes out, semi-translucent, and then I filed the edges a little bit. And overall, I mean, these are beautiful pieces. Let me wet this. Remember, wet always shows something more what it'll look like polished. So look at the colors that you'd see while it was hanging there. Grays and reds, and you know, it looks like a fiery mount, but then when you showed somebody what it was and it was backlit, look at the cloud formations and how the red gets lit up in some spots. Other spots it's more solid, some spots the red gets translucent. The more red material there is, you see the little fine cracks in that, What I found was when the mahogany is all solid red, very, very hard to take thin slabs out of. But yeah, so I'm wondering what that's going to look like polished up. And just quality stones. In my opinion. Look at that little thin slab. I mean, that is ready. Get my finger move behind it. That is ready to just be. I lightly polished it with about 800 grit, is about as high as I went with this, and you can see I didn't get it everywhere. But that's the degree of clarity, gemminess. This comes from the Davis Creek areas, so it is some of the most gem quality obsidian in the state. You can see why. That's just one piece. It's the most polished up piece, but that's just one piece of. This is actually the fatter end of it, where we'd lost most of the red out of it. But look at that. So is it okay if I just turn on some music for you here? And I'll show you a couple of minutes of these slabs in whole before I cut them up. And now I'll draw the pictures on there that we're going to cut out of them. But this is the before, and that's why I'm so excited. Look what I turned my pile of rocks into. We're so close to making some really awesome stuff. Already this is something that I could trade to somebody, sell to somebody, I suppose, you know, if they wanted to craft something out of it. Definitely give it away to rock friends. Look. Yeah, that's just the light off my finger lighting that up because it's almost like a fiber optic. Those are the details on it though. Okay. Okay, so these will be hand shaped, or just they're little teeny tiny slabs we're going to leave in natural shape and hand sand. And then this is our slabs that we have drawn all of the different shapes onto. Take them out to the tile saw here and whip through them. Okay, many hours later, hunched over time, back-breaking time on the saw, and we have this many shapes cut out. So in the top here, more natural shapes left, with, or at least they're natural edges because I liked the look. But then we get down into all of our made shapes. Really happy with a lot of these, how they came out. Just gave ourselves a whole supply of material to work with. Of course they have to be polished at this point still, but you can see that we've turned raw stone into slab into shape stone. So we're well on our way to the gemstone level. A lot of these are solid, not see-through. But I think that, you know, the mahogany literally looks like mahogany. And really happy with the first wipe there. I mean, we have to go over these and sand them and polish them to the level that's to our liking for sure. But it looks like pieces of wood, huh? But that's a piece of volcanic glass. I have a little bit of mineral oil wiped on these just to, right when I cut into a stone, I like to do that. Feel like it stabilizes it. Just helps out. This is a fun thing. Took one of the ends, cut it into a little stone, like a little gemstone, just by back dragging it on the side of the wheel. But that's it's gray obsidian, so it'll be more translucent later on. But I thought that was a fun. Only took a couple of seconds to just kind of wipe that out, and it's a fun way to present a gem for sure. So, let's see, here's this one. Nice circles. See, I got a lot of work to do on the sanding down, still haven't even started, but so you get the idea of what we have made. And I love a raw stone, but this is definitely many steps towards being able to call it jewelry, call it a finished product, to give us a reason to go hunt more. Yeah, fun stuff. Down to just a dark disc again. That'll be so much more beautiful when it's polished up. There is gray. That's what it'll look like when it's not backlit, but a million times better, of course, because it's got all the cloudiness of being unsanded right now. And then that's what it looks like backlit. Called that cloudy full moon. The arrowhead shapes. Just to start on that, it might bevel that more, might not. This one you already saw. But that would be the idea of those. They're so thin that we're just going to polish them and bevel them little bits on the edges. And I just kind of like how that turned out with the hills and the clouds on this particular piece. So I'm leaving it, and I think it'll wrap up nice, like a little teardrop. These are things that we'll probably toss into the polisher to see how they develop. This is the light striped gray. It was a butt end, but it's something to do with it. And then yeah, more you can see the lines, pretty easy to cut out. Light flaking around the edges, but that happens. I don't think that one's see-through. It's going to be a nice dark black mahogany. Ooh, yeah, that one's like this one here. Make like 20 of those and it still wouldn't be enough. This one's a little bit thicker slab. Might bevel down the edges and see what effect that gives us. Or I might just polish up either side and wrap that in a nice, in some wrapping or some jewelry set. Yep, all kinds of little things though. Leftover pieces, I decided to knock that one down into a basic little teardrop. Might just toss that in the tumbler and see if it makes it too. But no teardrop. All kinds of fun. Hearts, a couple random shapes, a couple of these you saw before. Pieces like this that are going to be, I think, really pretty just as they start, as the gray, the red, and everything in there, and then when it's backlit, gets revealed, it's got dog hair all over it. So you see the potential, and this is extremely rough. So let me do some polishing on these, and yeah. Oh yeah, this one. The blue. There it is. Getting the camera lens, the lamp light, and the stone to sit correctly is a harder thing to do than you would picture. There it is. Nice blue in that. Of course, it's a very clear gray down to where you can see the blue, so that's more what it'll look like when it's polished up. Wedges out a little bit at the bottom, gets skinny at the top. There's the back side. A couple of these are that. The sheen. There's the back side of it. It's really hard to see indoors. There you go. See, I tricked it. I proved it wrong. Or it proved me wrong, but I still managed to get it filmed. Hearts. Did I show you the heart? Here's your heart. Nice. Storm cloud. Stormy heart. Stormy full moon heart. Yeah. Yep. That was a fun thing to do. Came out with some little treasures already. Let's see what we can get these cleaned up into. You know, basic cab shapes. Circles and eyes and diamonds. Okay. That is what I've been up to. That's what I'll be up to some more.